Everything is possible. Don't forget it. Trust on you all the time because you are amazing, you are the answer, and you are wonderful. You have inside you everything you wish and you can wish.
I want you to remember that you have to be the change you want to see in this world. Believe in your talent, believe that you are an artist, and that the universe is always watching your back.
How I arrived in the Yukon is not as nearly as interesting as what I did when I got there. So before I get into the next entry, I'll just say that it was September 22nd when I arrived in the Yukon. Yukon by JVN. It was summer 2017. My life was upside down. I was lost between designer lovers and the illusion of isolation in my procrastination. I needed a new adventure. Hurt Heart, the lion with a thorn in his paw. I had one lover in my mind I had to make peace with in my addiction to these inconsistent remedies. Love is a tricky thing, between a trace of me and wanting you blindly. Then, through a series of dramatic hoops, I took my city rockin' beats to the quiet of the north, attacked by a stillness only found in the wild north. I have never felt this calm in 13 years in Metropolis. I could see in the North Pole that my life was chaos, like Channel 2 in the 90s at 2 a.m. So I dived in on a Monday and made my resume the keys to a new door. I landed 2 jobs while making my way. I worked late hours learning to serve 1,000 miles across into new territory. I was making mistakes as a lover and losing my grip on the city that lived wildly in my heart. The self emerges in the strangest series of mystical contradictions. I met a lady who supervised at Shoppers Drug Mart and stayed in her condo till she had to sell it. But before that all happened, I was suspended between old teeth and old filters on mental portraits on my wild and changing heart. Some superheroes work in malls behind counters, living just under the means to travel and survive on minimum wage. Some of us have cash blankets and no skin to keep us warm. We divide and come together to know the difference in a world living and dying, all at the beat and pulse of these inspirations. I had a longing that the SkyTrain was no longer fast enough to carry, a vision that H&M's simplicity could not frame any longer. The dream of a better kind of vision, a livable wage, a higher standard for myself. I went to see my sister for her graduation about a year before. I saw the raw beat of reservation youth. I realized that I wanted to somehow connect with youth. The real journey was in the 17-year-old me, locked between the journey I had been on and the peace we all make on our evolution of self-discovery. I know that a writer, a painter, and a singer live in me like 3 spirits trying to possess one body. I also think that playing instruments is like having multiple performances living inside all at once. I remember silly things like these red pajamas when I was 3, or eating Captain Crunch cereal. I remember the feeling of expressions before language and mature thinking corrupted me. Picasso said that every child is born an artist. I had this realization the other day that my imperfect sound is so important. My imperfect life is the same. I think my mistakes show a journey, and much like Leonard Cohen said, that the cracks are where the light shines in, reminds me to embrace the process of all my expressions. This dark, selfish escape artist lives inside me, who is guiding the brilliant side of my unexpressed potential. An arrow split in all directions. I shot into the thick, cold, quiet night. I managed to land a job in makeup and serve at a pub and a fancy hotel. Then I was hired as a team leader in an organization that works with teens to support them. I was replacing the lost spaces in my life with the fire in me that could now keep others warm. It's so wild how we know everything and nothing all at once. This is the divine contradiction of humanity. The newfound glory for me is perspective. Wild and free carry the progression of events that go into a sort of self-realized hibernation. All the astonishing aspects of a human being come into the disorganized snowflake of order. Transforming is much like a performance you are playing on the stage of life. Freezing each frame happens on its own trajectory through the untold stories that we are all living without being able to comprehend or organize. The spell of the Yukon pulled me in and opened me up and kept me warm in the coldest place that I had ever lived. The Yukon took me in and gave me back to myself with a brand of magic that I am still bewildered and enraptured in. Bless this wild adventure. I have never felt more alive and new. I cried for getting the best side of the coin, for losing the job that gave me the ability to stand in makeup with the ugliest kind of people, for throwing my heart at the possibility of a true love, losing it all, and somehow reorganizing it all at once. People apathetic, stale, and disillusioned by familiarity and anything that challenged them outside the world they knew. I had already come 1,000 miles in my own evolution. I looked them in the eye and let go into the starlight that guided me this far. I counted what I kept, wrote a song called Keep, diving right into the city lights, to the airport with a red suitcase I had picked up an hour before my flight, because a secret wild side always took me over. I was alive and free, enjoying every struggle that was cutting and shaping a journey that was alive and paving itself before my creative mind. Using my thoughts like a machine gun on the false part of me that wanted to sleep and apply to another 6 months spat in retail with a bunch of vampires hanging on a tree beside the sea foam breeze. I could love easily and find miraculous people everywhere because I was more than my story. I was the story. I know, in the proverbial sense, that may sound cathartic and angst-infested. These realizations are not like that at all. That I can form in the matrix of my mind was that all that I can form in the matrix of my mind was that I was able to fly and do things like a superhero. It was so real. I often wonder if our dreams allude to a preliminary requirement that hangs somewhere between worlds. I have these repeated dream sequences that change in plot, but seem to point to this power inside me, some untouched force of expression and expansion, creativity herself. There are times in my life where I swear spirits from other worlds are giving me their wisdom, days when memories echo into the present and I see clearly the love and motivations of these impulses. I breathe the northern crisp air with my toffee nut pumps in my Starbucks, and I carry the fuck on.